Welcome to Home Games. That is Steve Milton from the Hamilton Spectator. Way down at the other end, that is Bubba O'Neill from CHCH TV Sports. Beside him, Rick Zamperin from 900 CHML Radio. I am Scott Radley from the Hamilton Spectator and 900 CHML. And Steve, we are now halfway. I think every team now is at 7, but basically we're at the halfway point of the CFL, the shortened CFL season. If you voted, and I think you do, but right now, if you had to cast a vote, who's your MOP? Who's your most outstanding player?
It's funny because given the year, you might go somewhere on defense, but that's not what's going to happen. It likely is going to be on offense, and generally it's a quarterback. It's Zach Collaros in Winnipeg with Mike Riley coming on very strong. Let's see what happens with Fajardo as well. But right now, Zach Collaros.
What do you think, Rick?
Those are my top 3. And if you were to go defense, Jackson Jeffcoat or Willie Jefferson, two guys on that Winnipeg vaunted defense, probably the number 1 D in the league, very hard to score against, gets to the quarterback, ball hawks in the backfield. Those 2 guys in the middle, Jeffcoat in particular, man, buzzsaws. They can, slice through an offensive line and get to the quarterback. So if there was one, if there is an outlier and someone really does something incredible on defense, Jeffcoat is my guy. But the way Zach Collaros is playing and the way Winnipeg's playing right now, quarterback on the best team in the league, it's probably a slam dunk that he's going to be the guy, at least at this point of the year.
How can it not be David Watford? Are you kidding me? A third string who comes off the street and wins 2 games, one of them in the rain? Come on. But when I look at it, yeah, you're right. I think you named those 3 quarterbacks, guys, that are definitely, without them, these teams just would not be there. But I think I'm going to put Mike Riley at the top of this list because, to me, without a Mike Riley, they're in a lot of trouble. I think Zach Collaros, as really good as he's been, and I think all of us are familiar with Zach and his trials and tribulations, especially what happened to him in Hamilton, the fact that he lost his job to Masoli. I think he benefits from that great defense and an unbelievable running game, whether it be Oliveira or Harris running the football. So I'm going to take a couple of marks away from him because that team is so well balanced. But to me, Mike Riley is the key of a team that lost a close game early in the season. And to me, even though they lost this weekend to the Saskatchewan Roughriders on the last play of the game, without Mike Riley, that team's nothing.
And say this for Zach Collaros, and this is credit to him. I mean, a lot of us wondered if he was done with some of those injuries, if he would ever be great, even if he could play, if he would ever come back and be great. So full credit to Collaros for what he's doing. I mean, you guys kind of inadvertently stole my thunder. I thought I was going to be the only one to bring it up. I'm going with either Jeffcoat or Jefferson. Because you know what? Winnipeg's given up 98 points in 7 games. This is the CFL. And I know we've had videos before where we talked about scoring is down and stuff. That's 14 points a game in the CFL. The defense has to have an awful lot to do. It's not just bad offense. The defense is causing that. And those 2 guys have been dominant. I don't know what you can, by the time we get to the end of the year, you can pick which one is which. But there's been, since I think the 50s, there's been 1 defensive player who won MOP. Solomon Elamimian. And other than that, it has been all offense. I think this might be the year when you look at a defensive guy.
Which is why I brought them up in the first place. But they tend to go offense on that way. And you have to remember, I mean, there's 2 different things going on here. We're saying who our individual would be. The other question is who does win it. And you have to remember that you can't vote for somebody that the local chapter didn't vote for. So they come out of Winnipeg first or out of Hamilton first, and you get to vote for no other players from those teams except those ones put forward. Right. So we don't even know if they'll get out, as we saw with Andrew Harris last year, where he did not get out of Winnipeg. So the rest of us didn't have to make a moral choice.
And Jefferson and Jeffcoat, they're going to split the vote for sure.
They play off each other. And how much does it, like if you're saying, and I agree, Collaros plays behind the best by far offensive line in this league. They're made better, of course, because they've got a running game, as Bubba pointed out so well. But these 2 guys also, I mean, which one of them's coming? Which way, it kind of helps to have both of them playing. So they you can make the same argument that they benefit from something as much as maybe Zach benefits from having that offensive line.
One thing to keep in mind as well is there's a Defensive Player of the Year award as well. So that kind of hurts defenders in terms of winning the most outstanding player. But yeah, I mean, that year that Solomon Elamimian won it, I mean, he was absolutely unconscious. And if Jefferson and Jeffcoat can keep up their pace, First among sacks. Jeffcoat, I think, already has 5 forced fumbles this season. I mean, this guy is just doing it like no one's done it, through 7 games. Offensively, yeah, it is usually a quarterback. There isn't a running back that is really tearing things up. And there really isn't a receiver this season that is really, tearing up the field as well. So
Jordan was heading that way.
One of those 2 guys.
Kamal Jordan had Calgary, but first of all, they're going to win 7 games.
Yeah.
Not in 14-game season. They're going to win 5 games. And he's hurt too. So he was headed that way, but it takes an awful lot. Normally a receiver has to set some kind of record, which they can't do in a 14-game season, or have another part to his game as Speedy Banks did. Right. He had as well as dominating every single, he won the Triple Crown in receiving, but he also gave some pretty impressive special teams returns that year as well in 2019.
If we had to vote for Hamilton's MOP right now, would it not be Simone?
Yes.
He's certainly after the first game or 2, he's really crept up. He's really and you have to watch him.
He's had 2 things going. One is he's crept up and played very well, and 2, he has, through good effort and through good fortune, he has stumbled into the big highlight reel plays of the year for them
all the time.
So that's going to help him as well. But yeah, who else? I mean, that Simone Lawrence would absolutely be Hamilton's player of the year right now.
Yeah, I think certainly if we were casting votes, I mean, there hasn't been anybody play much else, and there's certainly no receivers, at this point. Yep. Somebody could go really off in the next little while, and like a guy like Dunbar could have an incredible second half of the season. He's sort of sneaking up on some things there.
Bubs, take us home. Bubs, what do you think about this?
I just think with Mike O'Reilly, this guy for the last 2 seasons under just a poorly constructed offensive line has taken an absolute beating. I haven't seen any quarterback in this league in many, many years just beat up, but he keeps getting up. And I think it was Glenn Suter that said it on the broadcast last night, this weekend in the Saskatchewan game, is that we're seeing him run as well too, and that it's almost like it's something that he's worked on. So because he's always been kind of a pocket guy, but he's using some mobility and almost looks a little step quicker than we've seen him in many, many years. And you add him that arm, I think he's got great receivers. But I just think, and again, we can get into this whole discussion of MOP and the actual meaning of it. But I just think if you plug Mike Riley out of that team, they don't stand a chance.
Either does the market. And that's going to have that has a subtle influence too, because everybody's happier in hell to see that with a new owner and in a struggling market, this is happening.
Mm-hmm. And what he's worked on, Bubba, with the running is not dying. He's running for his life.
Well,
but
here's something about Mike. Every single starting quarterback in the league last year went down, right? But Mike was the last one.
Yeah.
He was
he should have been the first one. And he should have been the first one.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Who is the MOP for the first half of the year? Who would be your vote? Again, leave out the technicalities about teams nominating, all the rest. Just who's the best player so far in the CFL this year? We'd love to hear from you. Twitter handles are going to be up on the screen in just a moment. You can subscribe. You can comment. We would love for you to follow us. We'll talk to you soon.